Welcome to the Healthy and Wealthy and Wise podcast with global sales trainer and professional speaker, Lois Kofi. Each week, it is her goal to share inspiration and education for you to be, do, have the best health and wealth and wisdom for your life.
Woohoo! We made it, guys. Oh my gosh. You never know what's going to happen during a Mercury retrograde. Everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Lois Kofi. We had to pivot. Thanks so much to Misty and her patience this morning. We're having a lot of technical difficulties, right? And that's just such a great metaphor for life, to discipline your disappointments and never give up. So I was disciplining myself. We had a few disappointments and here we are. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. If you're tuning in live, go ahead and hit #live. Unfortunately, since I'm streaming through Zoom, I can't see your comments. I may not be able to do as much interaction today. If you're watching on the replay, #replay, and where are you tuning in from? You guys are going to be in for a real treat because we have such an amazing topic today. I've never had a guest on my show, and nor do I think I'll probably ever have another guest on my show again with this topic. Sometimes there's overlap. Sometimes I have some similar people, similar messages in this healthy and wealthy and wise community. But today, this is going to blow your mind, I think. So today I have Misty Cogdill. You're all the way in Florida, right? And yes. So excited to have you here. She's the best-selling author of You Can Heal Your Life with Handwriting. And she's got an amazing story. She's a handwriting graphology expert. So you've probably never met anyone like her. So I'm going to go ahead and just have you share your story and what is all of this stuff that you're talking about?
Well, thank you, Lois. It's an honor to be on your show, and I'm happy to have this great conversation. So thank you. My name is Misty Cogdill, and I am the author of You Can Heal Your Life with Handwriting. And I have the book right here. It tells my story, and my story, as many women do, we get married and we change our last name. And it's not like you just change your last name and you're different, right? You don't snap your fingers and the next day, oh, I'm a different person. When you change your signature, it's your handwriting is a graphic representation of your thought patterns. It's a map on paper to how you think. So for women, when we change our last names and we get married, we typically, in the tradition of America, where I was raised, is you take the man's last name. So I took my ex-husband's last name, and within a year, I had noticed that I was very different. I wasn't who I knew myself to be. I knew myself pretty well, and I just was experiencing life very different. And so I didn't have any answers. Nobody had answers. I kept asking people, like, do you change after marriage? Is this normal? Like, what happened? Where did I make a change? And I should have made a right turn, and I should have made a left turn. Like, something happened and something's different. And the answer I always got is, hey, life happens, things change, and you just got to roll with it. And I said, no, I'm not going to accept that as an answer. Something happened. And so after 6 years of marriage, we ended up getting divorced. Great guy, just didn't work out. And I got my maiden name back. And again, I didn't change within a day. Like, it doesn't happen. So that's why it's so it's not easy for people to go back and put the pieces of the puzzle together on where something shifted. And then within 3 months, the neurological patterns in your brain start to get rewired. And within a year, you are experiencing life from that different viewpoint. And so when I got my maiden name back within a year, I recognized, I was like, I'm back. Okay, what happened? And I was like, how did I get back? And then I was convinced it was marriage. And I was like, marriage changes you. And then I was like, well, wait a minute. Why does marriage change you? So I did a lot of self-reflection and did a lot of digging in looking at cause and effect of things, and put together that it was my handwriting and when I changed my signature. And so I went looking for answers because of that. And I found a lot of answers. There's a lot out there on graphology and handwriting analysis. And through studying it for the last 10 years, I can't get enough of it. I love it. And I've been very passionate about it, have changed a lot of people's lives with it. And then started my coaching program, and I helped a gentleman go from 8 million to 12 million in 4 months because of removing his blocks in handwriting. So I saw where he was limited, and I cannot take credit for his 8 million. I never have, and I never will, because I said, you take all the right actions, you're doing all the right things. He just, in his line of work, was able to expand a lot in his potential, and he wasn't reaching it. He felt like he had a ceiling. And I looked at his handwriting, and I said, yeah, you do have a ceiling, because you've got a lot of blocks in your handwriting and in your signature. And so he said, okay, I'm going to take your program. I'm not going to do anything else. And he did. And obviously he skyrocketed, and things opened up, and a lot of things shifted, and he was able to turn things from, 8 million to 12 million. And I've had a lot of clients since then. I had a client recently she was able to land her first $50,000 client with her business. And I've had several other clients land $10,000 clients. So there's a lot of things opening up and people shifting because they're getting to the core of things. So, when your handwriting is a graphic representation of your thought patterns, and then you see the block on paper, that block is attached to a bunch of emotions from our past. So our emotions get cleared out, and then it's when you start to write newly and those neurological patterns shift in the brain within 3 months, all those emotions that are unsolved come bubbling up to the surface to be healed. And then once they come up, then you got to go through them, and you've got to feel them, and you've got to, work through those emotional experiences. Everybody's different. So I can't say specifically what that's going to be for an individual. I just know that they go through it, and then, that gets cleared, and then you're writing in the most beneficial way. It pulls you towards your highest and best and truest self of who you are as an individual. Oh, you're on.
I'm muted because sometimes if I cough, I apologize for that. So I'm so blown away that what you said, highest and best self, that's what we're all about here, as you know, at the Healthy and Wealthy and Wise community. And I'm really curious, you gave some great business success and financial successes. Does this kind of stuff also help with health problems or health challenges?
Yes, it does. I have a gentleman right now who's over in Africa who's one of my clients, and he said that the weight is just pouring off of him, and he's not going to the gym, and he's not doing anything. He didn't change his eating at all. And he's like, what's happening? And I said, a lot of the times our weight is attached to the unsolved emotions that we have. We bury our emotions, and then, that shows up in our weight. So if you're not going through your emotions, which now he is through changing his handwriting, he said the weight just started pouring off. And then my mom is somebody who had a kidney transplant. And I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the book, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. She's my favorite mentor of all time. So that's why I named my book after her, which is You Can Heal Your Life with Handwriting. She was someone who had the biggest impression on me, and she shares in the back of her book all of what kidney problems represent. And I was able to show her through handwriting how to adjust a couple of things. And then she was having a hard time receiving. So she was on a kidney transplant for 2 years and having a hard time receiving. So I helped her through her handwriting to receive a little bit easier, which allowed the block to be removed, and it allowed the kidney transplant. She actually got a call after 80 days of writing with me that allowed her to have that kidney transplant. So it did help.
Wow, that's amazing. Have you seen a change when you work with younger people who don't do much handwriting? And I mean, as adults, right, we're always typing. We're texting. I know I've worked with different coaches who like, no, Lois, you got to write down your dreams and visions handwritten. Don't just type it. And so I know the power of that. However, how many people actually want to do handwriting. Is there a bit of a challenge for people in that situation?
Well, I always tell everybody, I use the analogy of going to the gym. People can go to the gym and take time to work out their body. If they go to a pen and paper, it does work out their mindset. It is exercise for the brain. So whether they like it or not, it does work with the neurological patterns of your brain when you do write, and it does cause the brain to light up differently. So if you want to exercise the brain, then definitely write a page a day. And I always recommend in blue ink, because black ink is not recommended in my world.
Whoa. Okay, now you got me. Why? Why?
So I've done a lot of experiments, and I read about a lot of it too. So with my own experiences, black was very heavy, and I couldn't have the flow of my intuition be as clear as it is when I write in blue. So anytime I go anywhere, if I see black pens, I'm like, no, you got to buy blue pens.
Awesome. I was ready for today. I don't know if you can see my pen. Probably not. It's blue. It's blue, guys. I'm writing down with blue. Awesome.
Yes.
And you said a word that's very powerful, something that coming from a spiritual sales space, when I talk to clients, for me, sales is totally a spiritual, you got to be connected to yourself, your source, whatever that is for people. Everyone's got a different thought process on that. But intuition is something that I'm really working on and developing this year, so I can be connected and manifest much easier, faster, better, all of the above. So what does handwriting have to do with intuition?
So that's a great question. Every letter of the alphabet has a pattern and has an energy to it. And depending on what that letter is, will tell you where it's going to work in your mindset and within your body. So there are 6 letters for communication. There are 4 letters for intuition. There's 3 letters for creativity. There's 4 letters for learning and evaluating. And there's a letter of inner authority. So I always talk about, for example, the letter X is the most powerful letter in the alphabet. However, it's the letter that keeps you in integrity. So I could go into every letter and all the meaning and all the detail. I don't know if we have enough time for it, but the L, E, I, and J, so one of your letters with the L, E, I, and J are the 4 letters of intuition when written correctly. It will strengthen your intuition.
Wow. So every time I write my own name, right?
Yes. However, if you do the top loop in the L, it actually reverses energy. So I don't ever recommend people do the top loop in the L, which is how we were taught in grade school. Because how we were taught in grade school is actually 80% limiting.
Wow. This is amazing. And I was going to mention this earlier, but you got me all excited about some other directions. But when you talk about the marriage situation, right?
Yep.
Like, you thought it was your marriage. You weren't, obviously, then you got a divorce, and a year later things were different, which we see that all the time, right? Yep. So I think you'd be a great partner for a marriage and family therapist, maybe to some extent. Like, I don't know, this is maybe a crazy personal question, so you can just tell me to just go fly a kite, okay? But what if you would have not taken your husband's last name, and stayed, Misty Cogdill? Sorry, that's not easy to say.
It's okay.
What would have happened, do you think, to your marriage?
I think things would have been very different, because we take on that last name and we change brain patterns and we change our thought patterns. So our experience of life is different, and whether we're happy or not with ourselves makes a really big difference on how you show up in the marriage. So for me, I think things would have been extremely different if I would have kept my last name. But from traditional viewpoints, I did what tradition teaches you to do, which is take on your husband's last name. So everything would have been a completely different experience. And I actually have a friend who is getting ready to get engaged, or she says that there's hints of it coming. And I said, okay, you need to practice, because she's a friend of mine. I said, you need to practice that new last name and see if you like it, see if it's a good fit for you. Or you can just hyphenate it. And if you hyphenate it, you can experience with the energy. But again, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes about 3 months. And that's why so many people don't really understand and connect the dots like I did. And then I said the stone that she wears, the diamond, that has a whole energy. You do an energy exchange as well with it. And so I gave her all these little tips of things. I said, you've got to make sure that you like it and that it's in alignment and feels good for you. Because I have seen some women get engaged, get married, and they just skyrocket and life got really, really good and they don't know why. They're just saying, hey, life is amazing and it's better than ever before. And that's awesome. They're not educated on why. So, they might really like it and it might have been a great fit for them. There are other women who get married and then it goes downhill and it's not a good match or it's not a good fit for them. And, the man typically, or the person, falls in love with the other person because of who they are. So when you go into marriage and you change who they are, then there's no accident why there might be divorces, because you're not married to the person you proposed to. You actually have a different person because they're experiencing life different. The brain patterns are now rewired, and whether that person likes it or not can determine whether they get depressed or not, or whether they're just not happy with who they are. And they're like, hey, I don't like this change. It's like an outfit. I don't like this outfit. I like this outfit better.
Wow. What if I'm sure someone has said this kind of like objection, well, I'll just stop handwriting. I'll be fine. Have you ever had that come up, or is there any, I guess because they're not getting to the subconscious, right? They're not really changing themselves.
When you write, it is an exercise for the brain, and it does cause the brain to light up differently. So the way we were taught in grade school, if you are to write the way we were taught in grade school, it is 80% limiting. So for people to write in that way, they actually might be going against what their true mission and their true purpose in life is. So when they start writing in the most beneficial way, which we've studied a lot of the great wise ones like Andrew Carnegie, Abraham Lincoln, Albert Einstein, they all wrote the star A as opposed to the big bubble A. So that's just one example of all the very successful people we've studied to look at their handwriting, look at how they wrote. Some of them wrote certain letters limiting, some of them wrote them beneficial, but we always look at their name. Henry Ford is a great example of a gentleman. The letter F it's one of the letters of creativity. And Henry Ford, he had a whole lifetime that I got to study his signature and see what that signature was in an entire lifetime. He was an innovator. The letter F is all about innovation. It brings in creative ideas and concepts that have never been thought of before. And because of that, he was able to bring in the idea of a vehicle. Now, he said if I would have asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses because they couldn't think of what a vehicle was. So he goes, I'm not going to tell you, I'm just going to show you. And then he created the vehicle and changed humanity. And everybody on the planet now has a vehicle because of Henry Ford's genius, because of the letter F energy that he worked with in that lifetime.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing stuff. It's so cool. I don't even know where to begin with other questions because I think we could probably spend all day here. What have you noticed in kids today, because they're not, or what can you project or predict because they're not really doing much handwriting at all? Even if unfortunately what you said blows my mind. If 80% of what we did learn, because you're talking about cursive handwriting or just plain?
Yes. The way that we were taught in grade school when I was younger, in the 80s, was cursive handwriting, and it had the big bubble A, the backwards D, the figure 8 S. It had all those limiting blocks. So the fact that they're not teaching it anymore, I'm actually relieved and happy because I said, good, they were teaching it wrong. I don't want them to teach it wrong. I want them to teach it the correct way. And if they teach it the correct way, then obviously our children will advance to their most noble and best selves, and they can reach their true soul's potential because they're writing in the most beneficial way instead of the limiting way. So you can go further in your experience and reach better, bigger goals. And instead of focusing on drama, they're focused on, hey, how can we solve the world problem with pollution in the water or something like that? You know, you go finding problems to make things better instead of having problems find you.
Wow. Because you hear so much about screen time, and, you know, even chiropractors talk about, you know, kids, you know, are going to be a lot more hunched over because they're typing way more, like probably, I'm going to say 80% of the time, because we're homeschooling, obviously. So I see my kids and what they're doing. And so I don't know if, you know, that sort of counteracts that in a good way. What you're saying is actually encouraging for those of us who have children that are learning in grade school right now.
Yeah, I have a children's book, and I have a dream of it turning into a cartoon someday, but it's a children's book of the letter written in the most beneficial way, wanting to be the child's friend. And it says, hey, you know, I'm so glad that you're here. Will you be friends with me? If you write me like this, I'll help you do this. And then it's a list of what the letter will help them do if they write it in that way. And then I had thought with the cartoon, we would bring the letter that's not the most beneficial as the bad guy.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, yeah, when you think about, I forget, what was that? It wasn't a cartoon. What did we grow up with? Each letter had a name. You know what I'm talking about? Or maybe it was on Sesame Street.
But, oh, yeah. Sesame Street. Yeah. I don't remember all the details, but yeah, I do remember learning about that on Sesame Street.
Do you find, I know you're not a marriage and family therapist, but I'm just curious because it sounds like a lot of times you had the discovery and have probably talked to a lot of women who've had that discovery of the name change. Do you find that you end up working with the couples because the guys probably like, what? So not that you're a therapist per se, but do you find that you get involved? We just passed through Valentine's Day, right? So all couples are probably going like, oh my gosh, is this a thing? Should we be seeking counseling? You know what I mean? How do you handle that?
A lot of the times it's the woman who changes her last name through marriage. So with that, you know, it's just the proper education. When you can have the proper education, I always advise women, they're like, well, I don't want to get divorced. I'm like, I'm not advising divorce. So please do not think that. I always suggest that they can journal every day and they can journal their maiden name because their maiden name is who they were when they were 5. So you actually do a lot of inner child work when you reconnect with that if you want to continue to write your maiden name and then do the hyphenation. So it would be first name, middle name, maiden name, and married name is typically what I recommend in my program when people go through the 90-day cycle journey that I have through with handwriting and writing in the most beneficial way.
That's so cool. Well, I know, tell us a little bit about, or maybe all of this is in your book, but tell us a little bit more about what is in your book and where can they get your book?
Yeah, so they can get my book on Amazon. It's $8.88. And I love the number 8. My birthday is February 8th. So, but yeah, so with it, they can go on Amazon. It's You Can Heal Your Life with Handwriting. It was an Amazon bestseller when it was released last year in September. And what's in my book is basically it's my story. You know, I share in there a lot about what I've learned over the years, how I've had a huge awakening from shifting my handwriting. My grandma actually was abused as a child. She was born a girl and viewed as worthless because she couldn't help out on the family farm. So her abuse actually showed up on paper. And I, as her granddaughter, was around her quite a bit growing up. And then I started to write very similar to my grandma. Now, I didn't experience the abuse that my grandma did, but because I was around her, I took on those thought patterns. And because I took on those thought patterns, I started to experience things in a way that wasn't beneficial or in a way that I would have liked to have experienced them. So when I started writing in the most beneficial way, I kind of got to release that. It's almost like a shedding of a snake skin. I don't like snakes, but that's like the analogy that I could explain. And I got to move into my true authentic self and start having a lot more positive experiences. as opposed to what I had taken on from generational patterns that didn't serve me very well.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm looking over here. I do see some comments. You're going to like this. One of my guests, actually, my podcast audio guy, Eric Beals, who's going to be on next week. He says, I never liked cursive anyways. Glad to know. I guess I was right to not like it. That's amazing. Well, and I'm curious, I'll probably have to talk to you myself because I didn't take my husband's name by itself. I did, and I didn't do the hyphen thing either. I don't know if that matters. I did. My legal name is Tiedemann Kofi without a hyphen. So I don't know if there's any issues with hyphenating or not hyphenating.
Well, I know people have gone through like nicknames, and I've talked with people who, if their name is like a Robert and they start signing Bob and they're going by Bob, well, the R, the first letter of a person's first name, is their biggest challenge in life. And once they overcome their biggest challenge, it becomes their greatest gift. So I always talk with people about overcoming their biggest challenge, writing it in the most beneficial way. Well, if a Robert went to Bob, he's writing the B, he's not writing the R, and that's not serving him to his highest and best to be able to overcome the patterns that he took on to then transform them.
Wow. That's amazing. So even, I didn't think about that. Yeah. Shortened names, like my brother, Richard, but he always went by Rich. Even that can make a difference.
Yeah, I've looked into names and I've typed in different, a short name like a Jessica versus a Jessie versus a Jess, and they all have a different numerology number, which numerology is not my strength. That's not my area of expertise, but I have looked at different websites and it gives them a different numerology number, and there's different impacts on it. And I've talked with a Jessica and she said she goes by Jessie, and she goes, she just never felt like Jessica was a good fit for her, but Jessie fit her really well. So through her own intuitive experience, she liked Jessie a lot better. And so therefore that's what she writes. And I always say it's a personal preference. And obviously she felt it. So she followed her own intuitive knowing. So that's where I can't recommend one way or another, because it's like telling you to wear a different outfit. Like, this outfit looks better on you than this outfit. It's like personal preference.
Yeah, right. Because I have a daughter and her name is Desiree, and she sometimes goes by Des, sometimes Desi. So I may have to be calling you for the whole family, because my husband, he's got an African name, very, very different first name, middle name, and Americans can't even pronounce his African name correctly 90% of the time. So he even shortened it, right? So yep. There's a lot of layers there. That is so powerful. Oh man. Tell the people how they can find you and what is your free gift today, and then we'll start wrapping it up.
Yeah, so people can find me. I have my website is handwriting-soul-academy.com. So if you go to my website, you can actually book an appointment and schedule an appointment with me. If they go to my Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/Handwriting-Soul Academy, if they're in that group, I actually offer a free handwriting analysis to where they can send me a one-page sample of their handwriting and their signature. And then we have a one-on-one call that then I'm able to share with them both the pros and the cons of what I see in their handwriting. And then I share with them the different programs that I offer. So those are the two best ways to really reach me. I am on all social media, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest now with my new virtual assistant. She got me on Pinterest. And what was the other question?
Yeah, where they can find you in the free gift. I think you...
Oh, yeah. So the free gift that I have is 3 letters written in the most beneficial way. It's a PDF that I send out that will show you and help you to overcome its prosperity, innovation. Obviously, I talked about Henry Ford already. And then just peace, because there's a lot of women that I've worked with that get a lot of anxiety. And I said, you've just got to write, the letter of peace. And they'll start writing the letter of peace in the way that I recommend it. And then their anxiety goes away. So I always say I'm not a doctor. I'm not prescribing medication, but I do know the brain patterns can be rewired so that you don't experience anxiety anymore. So that's my gift.
I love it. So I'll have that all in the show notes, guys. Please connect with Misty. I'm definitely taking you up on that free handwriting analysis. That sounds incredible. So much fun. I really enjoyed having you here today, guys. Just want to make a couple announcements, and I just have one final question for you, Misty.
Okay.
So next week we have Eric Beals. He's going to be on talking about, intros and outros and how to launch a podcast and have really, really amazing audio. It's kind of ironic. At least you weren't on today, Eric, because we had we have all sorts of issues, right? But anyway, he's been great and helpful. So if you guys have ever thought about doing any podcasting, he's been behind the scenes helping me since day one with Healthy and Wealthy and Wise. So I'm excited. So please bring all your podcasting friends or people who aspire to or already have a podcast. We're going to have a lot of fun with that. So, Misty, my question that I close with everybody is, when you hear the phrase healthy and wealthy and wise, which is the name I picked for this podcast, has a lot of meaning to me. I always love hearing what my guests think. When you hear that, what does that mean for you?
So for me, when I actually spoke with Henry, who introduced me to you, I looked at the name and I loved it. I said healthy, wealthy, and wise is great. And then I go into the letters and I'm like, the H is all about confidence and the 2 W's are all about being the teacher. So you're a perfect teacher or you're coming from a place of teaching, which is super beneficial. So I love it.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know that, and I did good.
You did very good.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for being patient today on the live show. We had some technical glitches, but again, we stayed the course. We found a way. We got in. Please hit the share button with this message out into Facebook and the communities. If you're listening to this on iTunes, YouTube later, please share this with people, because this is incredible, very unique message. And I definitely would love to invite you back later on this year. I'm going to do a summit, a virtual summit. So I'll definitely have you come back, because I think this is a mind-blowing and can help so many people of all ages all over the world. So thank you, Misty.
I would love that. Thank you. And thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I love to be of service. So however I can be of service to people to transform their life through handwriting, that's my favorite specialty.
Awesome. Well, I can tell you're very good at it. So guys, please tune in next week. Thank you guys so much. Until next time, here's to your best health, your best wealth, and your best wisdom. Bye-bye for now.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe, refer a friend, and please drop me a rating or a review. If you do that, I'll reward you with a free 20-minute free coaching session on crafting your journey to your best self. Reach out to me at lois@loiscoffee.com to claim your 20-minute slot. Until next time, be healthy, wealthy, and wise.